Hi, welcome to the Light Reading Podcast Network. This is one of Light Reading's series of sponsored interviews in which we examine relevant topics to the communication sector through the lens of people and technologies driving industry forward. My name's Ruth Brown. I'm a principal analyst from Omdia, which is a sister company to Light Reading. In today's episode, we're going to delve into terrestrial positioning, navigation and timing, PNT, explore key technological advancements and the opportunities they present for mobile network operators. I'm interested in uncovering how PNT addresses the growing demand for precise timing and location information in the everyday services we depend on, and how it aims to complement traditional GPS technology. To help me in my quest for knowledge, I'm delighted to be joined by Mariam Sorond, CEO and board chair at NextNav. So welcome, Mariam.
Thank you, Ruth. And likewise, I don't know if your audience knows what an amazing person you are with 50 patents and an engineering background. So it's definitely great to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, always great to be talking to someone in the technology sector. So for listeners, I guess, who are less familiar with NextNav, Mariam, I'd really like to kind of kick off the discussion today. Maybe you could just give me a brief background about the company and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm the CEO of NextNav, and we are a leader in terrestrial 3D PNT solutions. And I know that's a lot, and we'll talk about it, of what that exactly means. But what we're doing is we're addressing a very urgent national security and public safety vulnerability that, quite frankly, faces the globe today. The growing threat to GPS signals that power everything from our smartphones and banks to aviation's critical infrastructure, transportation and banking. These services we rely on every day depend on the reliable, precise timing and local information that GPS provides. And we're providing a solution to be a backup and complement to one of the most critical technologies that we use in the world, which is GPS. At the same time, we're also redefining what's possible in 5G networks. We're offering a unique proposition to mobile operators, enhancing your 5G capacity, improving network resiliency, low-band spectrum, and a new revenue-generating 3D PNT solution, which addresses a national security concern.
Thank you. I mean, that's a great intro. And I think, obviously a lot to unpack there in terms of like the positioning, navigation, timing. So I guess what I'd really like to do is sort of start with the basics for those of us or those listeners who are less familiar with positioning, navigation and timing. And perhaps you could give us an overview which is specifically about PNT, Mariam.
Of course, happy to do that. So GPS is a mostly invisible asset that we have, that it underpins most of our modern systems that we rely on every day. GPS, as we all know, is a satellite-based system managed by the US government. PNT, which is positioning, navigation, and timing, is a very broader category of capabilities that include first positioning. This is your location. So think latitude, longitude, and also where you are in a building, which floor. Think navigation. This is for navigation. This is where it's mostly visible to us because we use maps to get around. That's the visible side of GPS. And then timing, which is the ability to provide precise time synchronization. That is a key aspect that is used in the invisible part of what we rely on every day. So why is GPS important and why is PNT important? One example that everybody cares about, specific to what we're coming up, which is Mobile World Congress, is your mobile phone service. Without accurate, synchronized timing, network performances will degrade. It could cause issues with reliability, security, diminished capacity, and users obviously can experience dropped calls, latency, or failed data sessions. But most importantly, what we face in Barcelona every year is we rely on the mapping tool in our phones to get around from the conference to our events. And everyone I talk to every year I go there has a challenge with that. So in dense urban areas and areas where we're building, there's a challenge because these are satellite signals and it's very hard for them to operate the same way as they do for coverage in urban areas. So today, GPS underpins everything, not only for what's visible to us, but the invisible portion that we talked about. This is talking about the electric grid. Timing synchronization is used in our electric grid. It is used in our water supply. It is used in transportation. It is used in banking systems. It is used in public safety. This invisible part is what is extremely, extremely vulnerable. And it's what we're going to address at NextNav.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you make a very valid point about GPS and losing your signal. I think all of us have been victims of being in a city or, like you say, Mobile World Congress. We're trying to navigate with maps and we lose our position, which is obviously, a bit of a disadvantage in that scenario. But what I really like in your discussion, and just to summarize a little bit about what you said, is the fact about it being so critical, not only to the network in terms of, the strict phase and timing synchronization mobile networks typically need, and also fixed networks, but also the fact a lot of these services really rely on this type of service, such as the sort of financial services, for example. To sort of progress on a little bit, I guess, GPS really has been the default answer for many years, really, in terms of sort of positioning, timing. But from your perspective, Mariam, what do you think's now driving the urgency around a kind of a backup and sort of complementing GPS? Is it the fact that we're worried about these kind of geopolitical threats or the outages? Or is it, we just need to be more robust? And I guess also my question to you is the industry underestimating the commercial impact of PNT vulnerabilities?
Yes, and that is a very dangerous blind spot that we have, right? I mean, GPS is an amazing technology. It's used by billions of users worldwide. There's no really replacement for it, but it's also a single point of failure. So what we're trying to do is make sure that there's a resiliency for this single point of failure. And that's a serious vulnerability for the United States. Our adversaries, China and Russia, already have a terrestrial complement to their satellite systems. So they use different satellite systems for navigation, but they have a ground-based system that actually complements it, and also it provides a backup. And this is not just a theoretical concern that I'm talking about. So what we're seeing here in the US is increased incidence of GPS interference. It's very easy to jam satellite signals because by the time they get to Earth, whether you're MEO or LEO or GEO system, jamming and spoofing is a real thing. So what we're observing here in the US is incidents that impact our airports, like Dallas, Houston, Denver, when interference shuts down runways and it impacts hundreds of flights. So we're seeing that today. Okay. But what's also happening overseas is that modern warfare today entirely depends on GPS for guided munitions. So GPS jamming is being used significantly around the world in the areas of conflict to prevent or disrupt the guided munition attacks. And we may talk about AI, but drones today, we're in a situation where you have a $5,000 drone taking out a $30, $40 million tank. And that drone very much depends on positioning, or even AI algorithms that depend on positioning. So one of the tactics that's being used is to jam and disrupt GPS or other navigation systems to be able to prevent these kinds of issues in modern warfare. But you also talked about the economic impact, and let's talk about that. So besides the national security concern, there's a finer point here on the economy. GPS disruption has an impact of a loss of $1.6 billion each day in the United States. This figure that I'm talking to you about was calculated by the Brattle Group, which is a highly recognized global economics firm. They conducted a study across all sectors, leveraging GPS from finance, power companies, transportation, distribution companies, and also telecommunication service providers. So $1.6 billion loss a day is not a small number. So in short, yes, our industry is absolutely underestimating both the risk and also the opportunity, because solving this doesn't just protect what we have, it also will create new commercial opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've highlighted quite well that it's not just one specific industry that's feeling the sort of pain of these kind of PNT vulnerabilities, but there's lots of sectors and verticals that are actually impacted when we get these outages or we get this interference. And then it's almost this economic ripple effect in terms of, both the financial penalty and the danger or the problems that, technology such as drones or autonomous machinery or systems might be facing. So, yeah, really great, highlights of the issues that we're facing right now. So if we sort of move on, you mentioned PNT as kind of an opportunity for mobile network operators. Do you think you could elaborate a little bit more on that? And I'm specifically interested in what existing assets you think that mobile network operators have that kind of position them in this kind of unique opportunity to actually deliver PNT services.
First and foremost, they would be addressing the national security and public safety issue that we talked about, but also they'd add 5G capacity to their networks via low-band spectrum that continues to be valuable. Let's talk about this perception. The perception that we have in the industry is that 5G overpromised and underdelivered. And how you view that depends on what you look at, right? There was a part of 5G where we talked about these pillars, and two of the pillars were URLLC and massive IoT, which people talked about remote surgery. They talked about, massive IoT. That's where probably it underdelivered currently. I still have a hope that 5G networks will continue to expand into the IoT space or autonomous vehicles or remote surgery. But what 5G networks did that don't get talked about at all, and it gets overlooked, is how they served public safety here in the United States. And that is a very critical aspect that, wasn't this shiny object that came up in the triangle, but it was something that is extremely important. Our country and many other countries in the world rely on public safety use. And that's where 5G really delivered on its promise today in the United States. Okay. So now there's an opportunity for 5G and 6G networks to go after another killer app, and that is national security. So if you look at the spectrum, the wide-scale cellular coverage, these assets will support critical infrastructure with timing and positioning synchronization, meaning utilities and financial systems are not going to go dark. So with terrestrial-based timing running on their networks, we provide MNOs an insurance policy also with a backup solution to this network timing synchronizations. So they're uniquely positioned to lead in delivering this PNT as service. They already have these amazing wide-scale 5G networks. They have the tower infrastructure. They also support a rich ecosystem and devices and applications. There's economies of scale in their devices and applications that could extend beyond communications to serve as these PNT needs in other invisible infrastructure that we talked about. So NextNav builds on that foundation. Our solution enhances the 5G network by adding both capacity with our low-band spectrum and the resiliency for backup and complement to PNT. And we offer 3D PNT services, and I want to be specific on that. We also tell you which floor you're on. So that's a really important aspect that satellite-based systems, because of indoor coverage and other vulnerabilities, have a challenge to address. So we're super excited about this opportunity that MNOs have and our partnership with them to help the innovation and growth and talk about a killer app, a similar way to public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really great to hear you sort of talking about how it's going to start augmenting the existing capabilities that GPS offers. I know you sort of summarized, that MNOs are able to leverage their existing infrastructure, like the cell towers, probably like edge compute capabilities. So I don't know what you think about, in the future, perhaps creating these hyper-personalized PNT solutions as we move forward. But I really like also the way that you describe the sort of 3D location, because I think this is one of the major differentiators, as you mentioned, about GPS. What do you think, Mariam?
Exactly. I mean, 3D PNT is critical. It's critical in public safety. So think about, what we call Z-axis, which means, XY tells you where you are on Earth, and the Z tells you how high you are on Earth or in a building. It's something that's not only used by public safety, so first responders to be able to respond to, for example, E911 calls in the United States, but also there's huge commercial opportunities in providing this 3D PNT. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, it almost feels like the sky's the limit once you add this 3D aspect.
Yep.
I suppose moving on really to think about the PNT competitive landscape now. How would you describe it really in terms of, we've obviously got the traditional satellite operators, which we've spoken about, and we've got some emerging terrestrial and hybrid PNT providers. How do you think NextNav is really fitting in to help these solutions and this landscape?
Yeah, there are many working to solve this problem, right? One of the things about the problem statement, which is no backup and complement to GPS, it is widely recognized. So there's a lot of companies who have very great technology, and then there's a few that have solutions, which is a big difference between having a technology that needs to be deployed and would need to solve an economic problem and versus a solution like GPS, right? GPS is a solution. It's not just a technology. So many great companies out there, but there's one offering that NextNav brings to the table, and that's a future-proof terrestrial solution. So let's talk about that, right? When you offer such solution on 5G networks, they automatically evolve to 6G, 7G, so it's future-proofed in that sense. We also deliver 3D PNT on a wide scale. So the grid that cellular networks provide is extremely wide, right? It's where population connectors exist. So you're actually offering a complement and backup to GPS in a terrestrial sense in a very wide scale, as opposed to localized, which some of the technologies do because they require new infrastructure. We also do this with no taxpayer burden in the United States, which is extremely critical, right? Because there's a lot of great technologies out there, but a lot of them need government funding to be able to deploy. So we are the only company with the capability that delivers a full 3D picture that includes X, Y, and Z access. All right. So other terrestrial players also fill gaps, but it's not the gap that we fill. But this is a system of systems, and you need many companies to come to the table. So they absolutely fill other gaps that are also important. And of course, satellite-based solutions, and especially the new ones, which are bringing a massive, massive opportunity in terms of broadband capability and serving underserved areas, but they're going to continue to face the limitation of indoor coverage. Even LEO systems have an indoor coverage problem. They're also going to continue to be vulnerable to jamming and spoofing, and also delivering that vertical positioning Z-axis that we talked about. So what I find compelling about our 3D PNT solution is not only it's standard-based, but it's also highly differentiated. Our platform is also based on hundreds of patents that enable accurate, resilient, and secure 3D PNT capabilities. We offer a very unique blend of attributes that could provide commercial wide-scale deployments in the near term, and that's also really important. Again, I want to emphasize we do all of this with no taxpayer funding.
Yeah, so great. So I guess to sort of summarize, it's really bridging the gap between the sort of satellite operators, terrestrial TNT, to kind of create this multi-layered, I suppose, space and terrestrial positioning, navigation and timing system that's kind of ensuring that all areas are covered. So there's no sort of coverage gaps. We've got reliability much, much higher.
That's correct. That's correct. It certainly will solve our Barcelona mapping and walking problem on a terrestrial scale, among also many other national security issues.
Yeah, I'd love that for next week, actually. That would be very helpful to me. So I'd like to sort of look ahead a little bit now, and it's probably like a great backdrop. We've got obviously Mobile Congress next week, and that's always quite forward looking. But how does NextNav's solution really fit into network operators' long-term evolution and plans? Obviously, advancements such as AI and 6G are already on the agenda. How do you think it's going to play out?
I think this is an opportunity to provide a transformative element to their capabilities, right? We're talking about AI native 6G right now, but this is not only where AI is embedded into the network, it's also enabling AI-based applications, which becomes very critical for the telecom networks to do. So 6G networks were expected to rely on coordinated multi-cell processing for distributed AI and also the edge compute that you talked about. All of this requires ultra-precise synchronization. We all know that, right? This needs to be independent of a GNSS system, whether it's GPS or other GNSS systems worldwide, particularly for resiliency in dense urban areas that we talked about. So that's number one. There's also new service and revenue opportunities. We have with things like location as a service, where guaranteed precision positioning is in the 3GPP requirements. Terrestrial 3D-based PNT solution becomes extremely critical to enable automation systems and XR markets where indoor and dense urban environments require precise positioning signals to support these services. And there's also the service level capabilities. 6G is expected to support and advance slicing across performance elements like bandwidth, latency, and with PNT, precise positioning can become an enterprise service slice offering, where a distribution company could purchase a service slice to support autonomous robotics for example, warehouse facilities, right? So there's a world of opportunities over here. But I also always want to continue to go back to the fact that it expands the market opportunity for 6G to go into looking into solving the national security problem.
Yeah. So that's really great. And you make a good point regarding sort of network slicing. And I guess, especially as we move towards 6G, we're likely to see much more of kind of federated network slicing. So network slicing that might occur across multiple networks, and then really timing and sync becomes a really critical issue along with these other aspects that you're looking into, in terms of the precision of the location and also sort of national security aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of it that what if you were to provide a very secure slice of your network that could provide, whether it's location services, but it could also provide timing services or many other services to serve the federal government need. And that slice becomes an extremely secure slice that is entirely dedicated to a federal need, or it's entirely dedicated to a national security problem. That's one of also the killer apps of slicing, because we talk about slicing in terms of serving the private networks, enterprises, and many other applications. But now we need to expand this whole outlook into providing maybe some of our federal unique systems this slice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said previously, there's a kind of world of possibilities out there in terms of how the technology will evolve and start developing. It's quite exciting, really. So I guess my question to you now really is, for network operator sort of leadership people that might be listening to us right now as we discuss PNT, what would you say the key takeaway you'd like them to have in terms of what they should prioritize over the next 12 months and what's really important?
That they have the opportunity to help solve a serious national security and public safety challenge, and to enhance and grow their networks in solving this challenge. And to consider that low-band spectrum continues to be valuable, not only in providing and solving for coverage, but it also enhances dense urban and indoor signals to enable 3D positioning and timing. That terrestrial 3D PNT addresses the national security and public safety challenge, and that terrestrial-based timing provides them with an opportunity to bolster their network security and operational resiliency. And with Z-axis location, it also unlocks new service and future opportunities. We're super excited that we're one of the solutions and the only solution that has a commercially ready, future-proof terrestrial solution that delivers 3D PNT on a wide scale with no taxpayer burden. We're already operational, by the way. We're super excited about this on a 5G network in our Santa Clara market. We're ready to engage, to discuss, to educate, to partner, to show proof points and collaborate on this opportunity. So this is really a call to reach out. We'd love to talk to you. We will be in Barcelona next week and look forward to meeting you, Ruth, in person and engage with the entire industry to solve what faces our global economy and global national security as a challenge.
Yeah, thank you. And Mariam, it really sounds like PNT is becoming much more of a both strategic differentiator for operators, but also kind of this underlying technology that can build out more robust, more secure networks, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we're out of time now, but I want to thank you so much for joining me today, Mariam. This has really been a fantastic conversation.
Ruth, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. And again, so impressed by your background.
Oh, thank you. I think, to everybody working in technology, everyone has an interest, and it's fabulous, isn't it? But also I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If this is your first time listening, please be sure to visit lightreading.com and you can catch up on previous episodes. But I'd also urge you to check the show notes for the current conversation and podcast we're on just now, where there'll be more information about NextNav. So until next time, I want to say goodbye from me and also from Mariam too.